Psalm 78 is a very special song. It is a long song found in the Bible. Asaph, a wise man, wrote this psalm. He was a worship leader for King David. He loved God very much. This psalm is like a history lesson. It is also a beautiful, thoughtful poem. It teaches us many important things. We learn about God and His ways. We also learn about people just like us. Asaph had a message from God. He wanted everyone to listen carefully. He said, "My people, hear my teaching." He urged them to pay close attention. The words he spoke were from the Lord. They were meant for all people, for all time. This was not just an old, dusty story. It was a living word, full of power. A word meant to change hearts and lives. This psalm is called a maskil. That word means it is for instruction. It is designed to make us think deeply. It helps us understand God better. Asaph used stories from the past. He told of God's amazing, powerful deeds. He also told of the people's mistakes. Asaph was a truly gifted teacher. He knew how to share God's truth. He did not just list dry facts. Instead, he told captivating stories. These stories were like parables. They were riddles from days gone by. He said, "I will open my mouth in a parable." He wanted to stir people's minds. He wanted them to discover truth themselves. This made the lessons more personal. Stories have a special way of touching our hearts. They paint vivid pictures in our minds. We remember stories more easily than rules. Asaph understood this human trait well. He took real events from Israel's history. He presented them as powerful lessons. These were not just tales of long, long ago. They were timeless lessons for living life. They clearly showed God's character and ways. The stories spoke of God's awesome power. They also spoke of God's unending love. And they spoke honestly about people's choices. Sometimes the people chose the right path, but many times they did not choose well. Asaph did not try to hide the bad parts. Asaph did not write this psalm for himself. He wrote it with the children in mind. He wrote it for their children too, and for all generations that would follow. He said the fathers should teach their sons. This was a clear command from God. The stories of God's faithfulness must be passed on. Each new generation needed to hear them. This was a task of utmost importance. The future depended on this remembrance. Why was it so crucial to tell the children? It was so they would come to know God. They would learn of His mighty, awesome acts. They would see His wonderful, loving deeds. They would come to understand His faithfulness. This precious knowledge would build their faith. It would give them unshakable hope. It would carefully guide their steps in life. They would know who to trust in hard times. God would be their rock and their guide. The main goal was beautifully simple. Then they would put their trust in God. They would not forget His amazing deeds. They would strive to keep His commands. This was the heartfelt hope for the future. Asaph begins his song with God's power. His power displayed in the land of Egypt. He reminds the people of God's miracles. These were not small, ordinary things. They were awesome and breathtaking wonders. God showed His incredible strength for all to see. He did this to rescue His chosen people. He wanted them to be free from slavery. Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, had a hard heart, but God's power was far greater. Think about the terrible plagues God sent. The life-giving water turned into blood. Frogs came and covered all the land. Swarms of biting flies filled the air. Then came the troublesome, pesky gnats. All the Egyptians' livestock began to die. Painful boils afflicted people and animals alike. Hail rained down from the sky like fire. Huge swarms of locusts ate every green thing. A thick darkness covered all of Egypt. These were powerful signs of God's authority. God performed these things in Zoan. This was a real place in ancient Egypt. The Israelite people saw these wonders. The Egyptian people saw them too. There was no denying God's mighty power. After leaving Egypt, God led His people. He guided them on a long journey. They traveled through the vast wilderness. This was a very hard and difficult journey. It was a dry, hot, and barren land. But God was always with them. He led them gently like a good shepherd. He was a cooling cloud by day. He was a comforting fire by night. They were never, ever truly alone. The people became very thirsty in the desert. There was no water anywhere in sight. But God miraculously provided for them. He split the hard rocks in the desert. Cool, fresh water gushed out abundantly. It flowed like a refreshing river. There was enough for everyone to drink. This was truly an amazing miracle. God showed He could provide for all needs. He cared for them like a loving father. Then the people grew hungry on their journey. They started to complain to Moses. They missed the different foods of Egypt. Did God forget about their hunger? No. He sent special food down from heaven. Manna rained down softly like the dew. It was like small wafers made with honey. Despite God's constant goodness to them, the people rebelled against him often. They forgot his wonderful miracles so quickly. They saw his mighty power in Egypt. They experienced his loving care in the desert, yet their hearts were not truly loyal. They were stubborn and stiff-necked, just like their ancestors before them. They had a sad history of turning away. This forgetfulness was their great sin. They deliberately tested God in their hearts. They selfishly demanded food for their cravings. They even spoke against God himself. They doubted, saying, "Can God spread a table? Can he do it here in the wilderness?" They questioned his awesome ability. They doubted his deep love for them. This happened after he had already provided so much. Their unbelief was a very deep problem. It showed a lack of gratitude. Asaph calls them a stubborn and rebellious generation. This was a very strong description. Their hearts were not steadfast toward God. Their spirits were not faithful to him. They witnessed his amazing wonders daily, but they did not learn the lessons. They experienced his incredible grace, but they did not truly change their ways. God is incredibly loving and merciful, but he is also perfectly just and holy. He cannot ignore sin and rebellion forever. The people's constant unfaithfulness angered him. Asaph writes, "When the Lord heard them, he was furious." His anger was not like uncontrolled human anger. It was a holy and righteous anger. It was a measured response to their sin, a response to their broken covenant promises. He longed for their hearts to return. Fire fell upon them in the camp. His righteous wrath rose against Israel. This was a direct consequence of their sin. God's discipline is not meant to destroy. It is intended to correct and to guide. He wanted them to turn back to him. He wanted them to learn from their errors. But their hearts were often hard and proud. They did not understand his loving ways. They suffered because of their wrong choices. Even when God disciplined them, he did not completely consume or abandon them. He remembered they were only human beings. He saw them as a passing breeze. They were frail, weak, and fleeting creatures. But their continued sin tested his patience. They put God to the test repeatedly. Yet even when he was angry, God showed mercy. This is the truly amazing part of the story. He punished their sin, it is true, but he did not completely abandon them. Asaph writes these beautiful words, "Yet he was merciful. He forgave their many iniquities and sins. He did not destroy them completely as they deserved. His great love is always stronger than his anger. His compassion is wider than our understanding. This is the wonder of our God." Many times he turned his anger away. He restrained his full and righteous wrath. Why did he do this for such rebellious people? Because he is overwhelmingly compassionate. He is gracious and kind beyond measure. He is very slow to become angry. He is abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness. He remembered his covenant with Abraham. He remembered his promises to his people. His very character is one of enduring faithfulness. He knew their human frame so well. He remembered that they were but dust. This deep understanding tempered his judgment. He saw their inherent weakness and frailty. He saw their sad tendency to stray. This did not excuse their sin at all. The psalm takes a significant turn here. After many cycles of sin and mercy, God made a sovereign and new choice. He rejected the prominent tribe of Ephraim. Ephraim had been a leading tribe, but they were not consistently faithful to God, so God chose the tribe of Judah instead. He also chose Mount Zion, which he loved. This was a new direction in his plan. A new chapter was beginning for Israel. He built his holy sanctuary on Mount Zion. It was to be like the high heavens. It was established firmly, forever. This was to be his special dwelling place, a place where his people could meet him, a sacred place for worship and for sacrifice. This important choice brought new stability. It brought fresh hope for the future. God was showing he had not given up. His plans were still moving forward. Then God chose David to be his servant. He took David from the humble sheepfolds. David was a simple shepherd boy. He faithfully cared for his father's sheep. God saw David's heart, his inner character. He knew David would care for his people. Psalm 78 is truly an old, ancient song, but its powerful message is timeless. It speaks directly to us today, right now. We are often not so different from the Israelites. We too can forget God's amazing goodness. We too can have stubborn, rebellious hearts. We too face important choices every day. Will we choose to trust God fully, or will we try to go our own way? These questions are always before us. The lessons from this psalm are very clear. Remember what God has done for you. Do not forget his mighty acts of love. Think about his miracles in your own life. Tell these important stories to the next generation. Teach your children to trust God always. Teach them to obey his loving commands. This is absolutely vital for a strong faith. This helps to build a lasting legacy, a legacy that honors God above all. God's awesome power is still at work today. His wonderful mercy still flows freely to us. He is incredibly patient with our failings. He desires our wholehearted love and obedience. Faith is not just believing certain facts, it is actively trusting God with our entire lives. It is holding on to him tightly.